when you open Google Sheets, you see a large table, a very large table with a lot of cells. And so when people see these cells, they see opportunity of doing quite a lot of things. So they might make a to-do list, or they might make a table with a database of information, for example, the information of their clients or their products and something like that. So this is basically a very flexible design, so you can make a lot of things out of this. But the real power of Excel or Google Sheets or any spreadsheet software for that matter lies in its formulas. So the formulas allow you to achieve complex calculations, and they allow you to easily understand, easily make sense of your data, and especially if you're dealing with a lot of data. So in Excel or in Google Sheets, when I click on a cell, any cell for that matter, and you look over here, this says it is the name box. And the name box, whenever I click on any cell, you will see that this name actually changes. So this means that each of these thousands and thousands of cells has a unique name. And that name actually comes from the column labels and the row labels. So as you know that these vertical arrays of cells are called columns, and these horizontal ones are called rows. So each column has a different label, and this label is given a name with the English alphabets. So it is from A, and it can go not up to Z, but to several other. It can after Z, for example, if I add a new column, so it becomes AA and AB and so on. So there are a lot of columns, and there can be up to a billion rows, depending on your computer's RAM and other resources. So basically, there are a lot of cells, and each cell has a different name. And this name is actually called a cell reference. And with the help of cell references, you can do computations, calculations using formulas. So normally, when I click on any cell, so you can see that it allows me to select any cell. And here, when there is something in the cell, in this formula bar, this is denoted by fx. So I can see the value of that cell. And if there is a formula in here, so I will see the formula instead of the value. So basically, in Google Sheets, the cells can display a value, but in the background, they can have uh, uh, a different thing, a formula or something else in there, which is actually not visible normally. So when I decide to write a formula, I go to a cell. Let's say, for example, in this cell, I want to sum these values. So let's say I write here a formula. And to write a formula, I use the equal sign. So when I write the sign, so Google Sheets is really very smart. They have been adding AI features in it so that it can automatically suggest you what formula to use where depending on its surroundings. So it is suggesting me to use a sum formula, and it will sum from B5 to B7. So for now, I'm just canceling this suggestion so that we can break down its parts and see what happens here. So normally, when we have a few cells, I can just go about and click on a cell. And when I click on a cell, you see the behavior has changed. Previously, when I was clicking on any cell, let's say I press escape and I click any cell, so this blue rectangle actually moves. But when I am writing a formula, when I write equal symbol here, so that behavior changes. It no longer allows me to move that blue rectangle. So this means that I am actually in writing in formula mode. So basically, I am writing a formula here. And now when I click on any cell, So instead of selecting that cell, it just highlights it with a light color and it writes the reference of that cell, the address of that cell in the cell where I was writing the formula. So let's write the formula and click on the first cell and let's type plus, and then on the second cell and then type plus, and then click on the third cell. So it has given me references of all the three cells. The name of the first cell that I'm summing is B5, the other one is B6, and then B7. So when I click enter, it gives me the sum value of these three cells. So what I've done is I have selected three cells. Selecting three cells is not a very big problem. It is easy to select them one by one. But when there are a lot of cells, let's say an entire column and let's say a few thousand cells, so clicking one by one is not a good idea. So what I do is I can use a formula instead. Let's say I use the formula for sum. The names of the formulas are pretty much very easy to comprehend because they are actually the same names which are used in English. So for addition, I use the name sum. And when I write a bracket, a parentheses here, so you see this little pop-up coming up, and this is telling me how I can use the sum formula. So if you're not sure about a formula, you can always read through this description, or you can click on learn more and it will take you to the documentation and explain how that specific formula works. So for now, I write sum and then parentheses, and then I click on the first cell and I keep clicking and I keep pressing the button and drag to the last cell that I want to select. Or I can remove it and I can select an entire column. Let's say this entire column F. So all the cells in it are selected over here. But you see how the address has actually changed. Previously, when I was selecting the cells one by one, so it was giving me the name of each of the cell in it. But now when I select three cells, or let's say when I select 9 cells, what it does is it changes the way the address is written. So here, the address is written as B5, and then there is a colon, and then there is a B7. Okay, so this means that all the cells from B5 to B7 are included in this sum. Or let's say if I change it to B5 to G7, I can manually go and write G over here. So it selects all of the values within that range. So if this is a continuous range, so it will automatically select all the cells in it. But what if I don't want to select all the cells in one continuous range? I want to select multiple ranges. So to sum those values, I can, for example, let's say I want to select this one. Let's these cells, and I also want to select these cells. So to do that, I add a comma, and it allows me to add another value or another range. So I can select a second range, and I can select a third range, and so on. I can select as many ranges of cells as I want, or I can select an entire column, or I can select an entire row, or multiple rows for that matter. Okay, so you can see that the entire columns are designated as only the letter, and the entire rows are designated as only the number, the label of that row. So to complete the formula, let's remove this clutter and let's go back to the original values that we wanted to sum. So to complete the formula, I close the parentheses and press enter. And I see the sum there, and the value is displayed in the cell, but in the formula bar, I can see which formula is in there. Okay, so For example, sometimes when you are new with Google Sheets, or and you're writing a formula and you accidentally click any cell and you get confused. What happened here? I didn't want this to happen. I didn't want to change this formula. So to get out of this situation without affecting the formula, the existing formula, I can simply press escape and my original formula is preserved. It is still there. Okay. So I can sum the values. And for example, if I want to calculate mean of certain values, let's say I want like summing the annual return rate is not a good idea. Instead, we can use average. So for average, uh, it automatically suggests me to use an average function here because I have a label average over there. And I can select the ranges again and close the parentheses. So it gives me the average of that cell. I hope this is clear. And you can calculate sum or average both of the values without any problem. Okay. So let's move to the second sheet over here, which says references. And in this sheet, we want to calculate the commission for each person. For example, if we want to multiply these two values, let's go back to the basic formula sheet. And for example, if I want to multiply these two values, I can select this cell and multiply. For multiplication, we use the star symbol. You get it by pressing the Shift and 8 button on your keyboard. So I can multiply this value and press enter. So the value is easily multiplied. And for example, if I want to calculate all of these, I want to calculate the multiply these values and get the result in the second one as well. So I can copy the formula using Control or Command C and use Control or Command V to paste in the second row. Another thing I can do is when I move my mouse over this small circle, I can simply drag it down and it will be copied to the other cells. So for example, I can write the formula in first cell and I can drag down to all the cells where I want to copy the formula. So basically, in Google Sheets, whenever you see a situation where you have to copy the values, for example, you have to do one thing repeatedly, like you are copying the formula or writing the formula in 10 cells or 20 cells. So always consider that there should be a smarter way of doing this. There should be a way of doing this more efficiently because you don't have to do it again and again and again. So repetitive tasks are not a good idea. So always find the best and the most efficient way to do that.